actually see that. That's fine. Okay. My name's Levi. I'm, yep.
Is it recording? Yeah, it's recording. There's a phone here.
Oh, okay. That works. Okay. My name's Levi. I graduated from Staples 4 years ago, I think. Yeah, this is my 8th season in FIRST. So first 4 years as a student, then next 4 years alumni, mentor, volunteer, did a bunch of different stuff. I coached an FTC team for a year while I could, and then also part of a couple. I do motorsports in my college. I'm a senior right now, so head of design. And yes, I've just been in a couple different leadership roles ever since. And Navid here is also joining me. Navid, introduce yourself.
Okay. Most of you guys already probably know me. My name is Navid. I graduated from STI 3 years ago in 2019. I'm a junior-ish at Columbia, and I study mechanical engineering. During my time on the team, I was vice president and president of engineering, and since then I've been mentoring Staples. I also mentored a few other teams, FTC, FLL, and like First Global.
Yeah.
But I don't do anything in school. I work, so I don't have any leadership positions like
It's okay.
Levi. But I have experience talking to people.
But we've done a lot together, so it's actually convenient that Navid's helping me. When I was president of engineering, he was my VP. So we collaborated a lot, and we had interesting styles from,
Yeah, that's
contrasting a bit, but it was also pretty complementary. So I think that will be interesting just to hear in this presentation.
So the main thing that we want to talk about in this presentation is more so how to go about leading a team or leadership in general, but without most of the stressful parts of leadership. Leading anything in life can be really difficult, and there's multiple aspects of it. Like, let's say you're at a job and you're juggling things like making sure your team is working cohesively, but also meeting deadlines. Like, say you have this machine to deliver to a customer, and it's like $20,000, but your team doesn't have some design ready, so you have to be on top of them and then organize this stuff. We're going to be talking about how we tackle these types of things and some things that we experienced while leading as leaders.
And then just a few disclaimers. This is a non-technical presentation, so in technical presentations, there are concrete things that we can say, this works, this doesn't work. In non-technical, it gets a bit more subjective. So this comes from our personal experiences, our styles, what we've seen has worked, but I think there's a general consensus for some things. Just think critically about everything. Consider what we're saying, but also consider what you've experienced. Basically, for just disclaimers.
If you also couldn't tell, this is really informal, so think of this as a conversation, and if at any point you have any questions, feel free to stop us or comment on something.
Or say we're wrong.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, what is leadership? I wish you could see the quotes better, but I put up a few quotes on the slides, just things that I view as really nice in being a leader. So actually, how well can you see that? Not well. Okay. It's fine. Okay. But again, leadership is very general. People have different styles. It's about, in my personal view, bringing your team up. You have any leadership?
I think leadership also is responsibility to making sure that the tasks that were put in front of you are accomplished, whether that be taking care of your teammates or delivering some part. It's your responsibility as a leader to make sure everything is seen through. And obviously there are setbacks, there are failures, and nobody's perfect, but it's your job to see things through to the best of your ability.
It also takes on different things. So let's say my first time leading was just a couple people. It was my sophomore year. I was put in in charge of a prototyping group, and it was not good. I was really nervous. I was supposed to teach 2 people who were brand new to the team, and they knew I was nervous. It did not go well.
It was awful. His sophomore year was my freshman year. That was absolutely awful. Like he was trying to design like a cart sometimes, and then he was like trying to teach these 2 students like in my year. Like he's trying to teach them like I don't even forget. It was like what was it?
Oh, which one? I taught a lot of things.
Yeah, but none of the stuff. Okay, whatever.
Thanks.
Yeah, he was really nervous. That was his first time leading, and it was very obvious.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's here now, so he did something.
Yeah. Next year, then a couple of years later, I was elected. So went from leading a couple of people in the prototyping group to 50, 100 on the team. So I think I did better, got more comfortable. I think Navid agrees I got better. You have an interesting first time leading?
Yeah. So my first time leading was as a result of him ditching me. So in 2017, we had a timer on our robot. Kind of worked, kind of didn't. Whatever. It was one of the most important parts of our robot, and we basically needed to work 100% of the time. And I was a sophomore that year, and I barely knew anything at the time. But he decided that it was okay to ditch me, along with several other freshmen and sophomores, to build the whole mechanism.
It's one of the best ways to learn. Just
throw
you into the ocean.
He literally dumped me there for 3 weeks, and I didn't know what was happening. Yeah.
It worked out.
It was awful.
It worked out.
That was the worst experience of my life.
It worked out.
No.
Yeah, it worked out.
Okay.
But, okay. That's pretty much it. Just talking about our experiences in the beginning.
That's not how you should lead. You should not ditch your members.
Yes. It wasn't complete ditching.
All right.
I'm curious if anyone has their ideas of aspects of being a leader, some good things, some things you shouldn't do, things you should do. If you want to just throw out anything. Yes. I have a funny story with you about that. It went well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Being impartial, being objective.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Jared. Yes. Communication, very important. Anyone else? We have 2 leaders of the team here. Nothing?
Okay.
All right.
Fine. But I pulled this from a random site. I think it was on Indeed. There's different types of leadership. And I wanted to put this up just to show you there are a bunch of different ways to lead a team.
Yes. Let's go through them quick.
It's over here, right here. Open this.
Open what?
The second tab.
This? This?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it? There's coaching style, visionary style, servant style, autocratic style, something style that I can't pronounce.
Laissez-faire.
Okay. Democratic style, pace setter style, transformational, transactional, and bureaucratic. So I think this is a bunch of crap. I think that...
I agree with Navid.
I think that trying to define leadership in separate types of styles is, I guess, not wrong, but it's just like inaccurate, because leadership involves compromises, listening, and just like understanding people, and then using multiple facets and skills to organize yourself, your team, and things like that. But I think that there are definitely people who prefer different approaches. So if we take Levi and me, for example, our dynamic when we were president and vice president, respectively, was very yin and yang, if we could say that. He was the nice guy and was like, talks to you, motivation and all that crap. I was the one who was like, you better do this or you're gonna get in trouble. Or like, I would use other words, but
it balanced out.
It kind of did. But It works because I was always making sure that we set deadlines and we met them, and trying to enforce some type of structure and order. And he was
motivating people, make sure they're still happy
enjoying
doing what they're
happiness,
doing.
Yeah. So
having fun.
Yeah, we worked out in that regard because he didn't like doing the hard stuff, and that was the only thing I was really good at. So it worked out for us.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at this list, you have like autocratic style, which is much more, there's one person in charge, they don't really have any decision-making process with a team, they just decide everything. You have things like laissez-faire, which is just, here's your tasks, do whatever you want with them. And then everything else just in between, so yeah. What we do is pretty much a balance of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so leaders, a big thing, be goal-oriented. You're gonna take your team from step A, step B, from one place to another. Everything should reference back to your goal. It's the best way to keep things objective, less subjective, because then you could say, why are we doing X concept? Because it goes back to our goal. Whether your goal is win a regional, win championship, what will get you to that goal? If you say, hey, let's put LEDs in a robot just for fun, does that go back to your goal? If you say LEDs because, oh, it helps line up, we'll put on LEDs when we're aiming at the target, then that makes sense. But it also helps avoid many conflict because you could say, hey, does this idea go back to your goal? Pretty much what that is.
Being goal-oriented, though, also includes other facets. Like, it also means that you have to establish an understanding that the team as a whole has a set priority. Mr. Blake talked about in his presentation about setting a priority list, stuff like that. The team as a whole, especially on stiples, something that we always did was making the team as communal as possible, having as many voices heard as possible, and it's up to the leaders to make sure all those voices are considered and heard. And just making sure that even if someone's idea is not included or not put into, like, say, a final list, design, whatever, they still feel like they contributed to a discussion and they brought something up to everyone else. So it's a leader's responsibility to make sure that you stay on task and you meet your goals, but it's also your job to make sure that you do everything possible to hear everyone's voices in order to meet your goals to the highest level possible.
The last bullet point I put, what was my goal my senior year when I was president of engineering, kind of leading the team. It was make sure that the team after me can win worlds. And it's a weird goal because shouldn't my goal be I want my current team to win worlds? And the way it was phrased pretty much made me switch my mindset to, I have a bunch of seniors on the team, people that have been on team 3-4 years. They're really good engineers. They should be leading everything. But then what about the newbies? What happens the next year? So then it changed to, well, how can we include newbies more? How can we teach better? And that was the first year. So in FRC, we used to build, that was the first year we decided to build 2 robots. It was bag day. I don't know how many people remember that. But I had a whole separate team of newbies build a whole second robot by themselves. I would never have imagined my freshman year building a whole robot by myself. But I had people in their first year, hands-on, duplicating the robot that the seniors are making. And I think it turned out well the next year, and Navid can tell me.
I think this shows the difference between different people's leadership styles the most, because Levi was very focused on establishing a structure and a system that is set and stable and apparent for the future as well. Whereas for me, even when I was vice president, my goal was very clear, and it was to win. And obviously there were more things. I understood that as a leader I had to focus on other things. I had to care for the team's status, objectives, all that, the other people on the team, of course. But my overall goal was always to win as much as possible, as frequently as possible, and dominate as much as we can. And that carried over. It worked out when Levi was president because we balanced each other out. I focused on winning and making sure we met that aspect of the team. He focused on
sustainability, growing the team.
Yeah, sustainability is a huge thing in considering leadership because the team is still going to be around after you graduate and after you leave or whatever happens. And it's your job to prepare your future generation or your vice president, whoever, to lead after you. I did not do a very good job on that. Because in 2019,
Navid is hard on himself also.
In 2019, we had a lot of issues, and leadership. I think my leadership style carried over from the previous year, and again, I focused on winning and prioritizing like things like that. And a lot of other people did not feel the same way. So I did not consider like my fellow teammates' voices as much as I should have. And it hurt us collectively. But I think that's like a failure of my leadership, and people learn from that, thankfully. And I think the following years were much better, up until now even. And I think people have learned that to lead and to make this team a fun, safe place for everyone, it involves being open to multiple things, multiple voices, and considering multiple aspects of this whole thing.
And it's a weird thing to say, like, after I graduate, why should I care about the team? But then you look back and you see them doing well and you think, well, I contribute to that. And it's just a good feeling to have. And if people are doing that before you, it's a way to thank the people who set you up for success. You keep on continuing the success. Next is more about scheduling and delegation. It's hard to see, but this was my junior year. I was VP at the time, and this was also before I learned what a Gantt chart is, but it pretty much was a Gantt chart, which is a way to schedule a bunch of different tasks. On the left side, can't really see, there's a bunch of different tasks pre-season. All the colors were pretty much the dates that they had to work on that task. So like each block was one meeting time. And internally, I had my own deadlines for all my sub-teams. I had a soft deadline and a hard deadline. The soft deadline was pretty much what they knew. Let's say I gave them 3 meetings. They had to give me back the project in 3 meetings. Internally, I had a deadline of 4 meetings because I knew they were going to go overtime. They didn't know that I gave them 4 meetings, but when I was planning, that allowed me to pretty much account for the unexpected.
Basically, what that means is know your teammates' limits.
Yeah.
Also account for them messing up, because people mess up a lot. I'm not going to go for it.
But a little more on that. So what Navid said, know your team's strengths. It's a weird topic, but everyone's different. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. You have to know how to kind of manage your team, but you can't say, one person is quote unquote worse than the other. Inherently, people have different, people will be stronger in different areas. You divide your team such that you're emphasizing everyone's strengths. It'll bring up your team better, but you have to do it in such a way that you don't bring people down when you schedule those tasks or divide them among different people.
That's why in Stifles we have so many different positions. We have different departments and different AC appointed counsel and different directors, all of that. It makes sure that there are people who are able to understand multiple facets of the team and are not just doing multiple things and not being able to contribute as highly as they would be able to if they specialize in something. I think a good way to explain it, maybe a good way, is a balance of powers. The government is divided into separate branches for a reason, and there are different positions for every part of the government. Same way, you have multiple people with different positions, and they establish order, for the most part, together.
I kind of like psychology, and this is probably my favorite psychological, I don't know what you call it, effect. or thing you see happening with people. Some of you might have seen this. How many people are familiar with Dunning-Kruger effect? Okay, not many. Pretty much, when you're new to a topic and you get to a certain point, you think, wow, I know a lot about this topic. Even in reality, you don't know a lot about this topic. As you learn more, you realize there's a lot more to learn. And you start going on that right edge, and you realize, I don't actually know a lot. As you learn more. So it's this weird inverse relation where the more you know, the less you think you know. The less you know, the more you think you know. It's an important concept to understand because you need to know that you'll never know everything. No one will ever know everything. So I'll get into this in the next slide. But you need to rely on others. Everyone will have, this goes back to just different strengths and weaknesses. The moment you realize you don't know everything, you start asking for help more. And it's weird as a leader, because it doesn't sound like you should be asking for help. You should be a person that knows everything. That's not true. There will be people on your team that know more. For anyone that knows, we have an alum, Piotr. Piotr and I would always, sometimes we would bash heads, but definitely in certain areas, he was definitely a better engineer than I was. So I did rely on him for a lot of things. I would more do delegation. He would lead some more technical things in our department.
Yeah, I think when talking about Piotr, he usually let me deal with him. So that's why Piotr and I argued a lot. But whenever we had to work on something on a robot, or like something broke after a match and we had to fix it, we always were able to get things done, work together, and fix the robot as fast as possible. And I think that's because we had an understanding of what each of our roles were and what each of us were capable of. And I think that was only because Levi and I were able to establish some dynamic with the rest of the team as leaders and make them comfortable enough to not only argue with us about things, but also work with us in any given moment.
But yeah, just in summary, as a leader, it's okay to rely on your teammates. You're not expected to know everything. So onto that, there are many sources of knowledge where you can learn from others. Older students, alumni, mentors, other first teams, the internet. So yeah, the first time when I got elected president, I reached out to several previous presidents and just scheduled like a time to talk. And I just wanted to ask, hey, when you led the team, what worked, what didn't work? It was a source of knowledge because I was just elected into the position. How am I supposed to know how to lead this team? Well, thankfully, there are other people in my position. So yeah, I was just really thankful that they were able to show me. That's where we kind of altered our Newbie education plan when they told us, yeah, we had some, we tried some previous things, they didn't work out, try this thing. Or there was one idea where they used to build mini bots, something like that. This was a while ago, and they said it never worked because the newbies just didn't know enough. And we thought, well, what if we change it? Assign a veteran member to each group to kind of guide them along, because if they can build a mini-scale robot, that's probably the best practice for a full-scale robot. And that kind of altered newbie education for a while after doing that.
So Levi was really passionate about establishing some type of change. Like this meeting he was talking about, he dragged me after my drafting final.
Oh yeah, it was finals week, I forgot about that.
It was finals week. I just finished my drafting final. It was awful, by the way. Like 2 minutes before, like, I had Mr. Cologne.
I also had a final that day. I forgot what it.
I don't care. You didn't matter. You forced me out.
Yeah,
yes,
it was
awful.
bad.
I had Cologne. I didn't learn anything.
It was like barely.
Yes.
Wait, no, you took it as a sophomore?
I took it as a sophomore.
We probably took it at the same time.
Yes, because you took it as a junior.
Junior,
Yeah, it was awful. But he dragged me to Brookfield Mall after finals to meet all these people. Half of them I didn't even know. And I was really awkward. I was like this sophomore, about to be a junior, talking to people in like MIT, NYU, and I'm like, what am I doing here? But he was really passionate about making the upcoming season and the processes that we followed and all of that different and better than we had before. And I think that shows another facet of leadership, which is passion. You have to be passionate about not only leading, but what you are leading and who you are leading as well. If you have that type of deeper connection, then it will show through, and it will also motivate not only yourself, but your fellow team members.
Yeah, the other two things I did was research how other FRC teams structured their leadership teams. So Filmer, they had their own presentations, like we have Splash, they had their own on YouTube. So just go through their videos, see what do they do that we don't, and try and mimic or just maybe take into account what they do, change that. Other things is like, when you're in robotics, you kind of always want to look at the top. What do the top teams do? But you can also look at mid-tier teams who don't seem like they're doing amazing. You can get some advice from them. There was a, do I want to go into the story?
Your choice.
It's a more technical thing.
Okay, basically.
I'll save it for the end, if we have time. Because we're like, I guess we're on time.
Basically, there was a team that we were having a lot of issues with a certain part of our robot that year in 2017, and he was the lead of that subsystem basically, and he didn't know what was going on, and he had no idea how to fix it. A team from, or a mentor from a team that was not doing that well and historically wasn't that good, gave him some advice. And
I had some people saying, they're not a great team, should we trust their advice? It turned out it fixed our robot's issues. Just going through, so I did pneumatics, it was the error on the robot. And just going through the subsystem, I realized, wow, yeah, this is exactly what it's doing wrong. And after that, all the problems were pretty much eliminated. Yes. So this was 2017 when the pneumatics were.
so
when the pneumatics were just constantly leaking. Oh, why? Then it gets more technical.
Okay, brief explanation. In those pistons, we had really small fittings. Fittings are what you put on a piston that actuates. The fittings were really small and fragile, and we couldn't put.
Not just that. You know about O-rings? So O-rings are.
That's even more technical.
O-rings. Okay, hold on. O-rings create a seal for air and fluids. So pretty much, when we put Teflon tape, which creates the air seal, but then the O-rings weren't engaging. So pretty much, the airtight seal outputting was just not working because the O-rings weren't inside, and that's why now we use the sealant. That's pretty much yeah. I didn't want to get too technical because not everyone, yeah. That was that. What's next? Okay, I wish you could see the screen. So when you're a leader, you're going to be faced with a lot of decision making. And this is a hypothetical that you encounter a lot. Say you have two options. One is you decide on something that the robot will definitely work. It's a safe approach. It's a low risk, relatively low reward. Second option, you have something more risky. I'll gain you more points if you do it effectively, but there's a possibility you won't finish the robot and it'll break. Do you go for option one, the more low risk, low reward option, or the more high risk, high reward option? What would you do as leading the team?
There's a question.
Opinions. 1, 2, you could just, yeah. Yes, it's a very, okay, I know it's a very black and white issue, and there's like a lot of context missing, but.
Well, it would depend on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I would say, but based on this, I would say do the high risk high reward.
Fair. Yes.
I think it depends on the things you need to evaluate first: the content of the team, the energy of the team in that moment, and the decision.
You beat me to it. Yeah.
What's that?
You beat me to it.
And like, and what you and who you are as a leader, right? So like, I'm different from Jana, right? My voice means different things than hers, and me putting down an idea, usually me supporting
Any other opinions on that? Well, that goes into the second point. What happens if you're in a situation and 90% of your team wants to go high risk, high reward, and you're hesitant to do it because you know there's a high risk of it failing, but 90% of your team wants to do it? Fair, yeah. Let's say the goal is to win. The goal is to get as many points as possible, and the reward for doing this high risk is to get many points. Why not do both?
It aligns with your goal.
Oh, it aligns with your goal? But if it doesn't work, then you get no points. So would you tell your team it's not worth it?
It really depends on the cost of how you're going to achieve it. If it means like doing a lot of work and restarting many things and building a new one. If it's just like a really small operation, but then it has like just a really small risk.
So it depends on the point of the season, right?
Okay, fair.
One is different from seven, right? And also, what are you trying to do? Let's say this is the most popular season, right? Is this something we do on?
Yes.
Right, next. How do we qualify? Is this going to be the only thing that gives us a possibility of qualifying? What about our ultimate goal? What's our competition like? There's two different contexts.
Yeah.
But
Well, I would also say if there's another part of the challenge that is just scoring points, you need a low point score, you can do very well in the other competition and let your teammates go do the point scoring.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of context missing, but you'll find a lot of times you'll enter a situation that boils down to this. And there is something to just, do you want to agree with your team and then fail together, or disagree with your team and then potentially it'll work out, but then there's a lot of strife within the team because of this? A lot of people didn't want it.
there's a Bill Belichick quote, for those who don't know, he's a best football coach ever. He says, if we're all wrong together, we can still be right. And I really agree with that.
Yeah.
Even if you take that risk, but as long as you're united about it, you can probably actually, if you're united, you won't like that and execute it, but also, even if it doesn't work out, right, especially as a person who, said, doesn't think it's a good idea, not saying I told you so at the end of it, it just like takes it, you can still figure it out, even if it doesn't work out, figure out another option, go back to option one somehow, because you went to option two together.
So yeah, personally, I'm the same way. I want to fall together. I'd rather, let's take this risky decision. If it doesn't work out, at least we did it together. And there is a chance that it'll work out. So that's pretty much what I want to get out of this hypothetical. And yeah, it's funny. You'll experience this sometime if you haven't yet. Some other small things. Be transparent with your team. Something dumb we used to do was use Facebook Messenger for all our group communication. Then we moved to Slack, where everyone can see what we're talking about. It wasn't just the older members. Yeah, it's really helpful if the whole team actually sees what you're planning, what you're doing, and isn't just in the meeting all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're scrapping like half the robot. Where's the decision making? How, you get lost in this flood of things that just randomly happen overnight. Do you have anything about transparency?
No.
The second one, vote as a team. This goes back to what we were talking about just now. But sometimes you may have to step in. Again, this is just being a leader. Sometimes you have to make hard choices. If you see something obviously wrong, even though maybe the majority of the team is doing it, step in and say, hey, maybe it's not the best approach. Thanking your predecessors by helping your successors, that's what I talked about before. Having the team set up for success and then helping the future team. It's a really great way to just grow, keep the team sustainable. Perfection is the enemy of done. I always prefer iterate fast, make a lot of mistakes. It's easy to change them. If you try and be perfect on the first time, you'll end up wasting a lot of time when it's easier to just try something, fail, try another thing, fail, try another thing, fail, try another thing. Now it works. Instead of just trying to keep improving when you don't know if this will work. It's more of a technical thing, but I think it applies to a lot of things in life. You have anything on that?
I'll say afterwards.
Okay. Having constant talks with your leadership team, this is more a high-level thing, but if you are leading many different group leaders, always talking back and forth, checking in on them so they know their subgroups are always good. If they need any help. Again, the first time I was leading when I was sophomore, I kind of had to keep nudging the president at the time saying, hey, I really don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, you'll figure it out. I was a little uncomfortable. I didn't really know what I was doing. I would like some help just to make sure that people that you are delegating work to know what they're doing or have that support.
So before we go to the full end, I want to talk about leading an FRC team specifically. Or FTC team, my bad. But leading a first team in general, something I learned from experience was that as a student leader, as in Stiple's president or vice president, you're not just a representative of the students. You're also, the team incorporates a bunch of mentors, over 10, 20 mentors, along with parents who support us constantly, and also sponsors. As a student leader, you're responsible and represent all these people. And when you are elected or put into a position like this, you are entrusted with the responsibility of leading everyone in each of these categories. And I know that seems like a really daunting task, and it really is. It's horrifying and stressful, but I think in those situations where you feel like you're not able to do the task, that's when you must rely on your fellow team members, your fellow leaders, and work together and communicate and try to get through the tough situation together. And the worst thing you could do in these types of situations is leave it to yourself, keep it internally, and not discuss it, not share it with somebody. I think that the best part about being on a team like a robotics team is that you are constantly surrounded by people who care just as much as you do, if not more. But you are given the responsibility to act as their voice, per se, but it's also your responsibility and your right to talk to them and use them as support.
And just lastly, have fun. It's a robotics competition. If you're not having fun, you're not making most of it. I have so many anecdotes, and it's just because I was so passionate about the team. Navid has his stories. A lot of them actually we share. So yeah, if you're not having fun, then something's definitely off. If anyone has any last questions. Oh, then update. Okay, I'll add Navid's on there. I don't know why it's not updating. But my email's up there. This is a team photo from 2019, just showing that was the team after I graduated. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Oh, it's not showing your email.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Or criticism.
Or criticisms. Yeah. If not, so I guess since we're the last presentation, thank you for coming to Sty Splash. Thank you for coming to our presentation. It's been a long 5 hours or so. Thank you for staying through. And to everyone who has come and has come from another team, Thank you especially for coming to our event, and hope to see you here next year.